You know, we touched on this just last month, guys. Ironically enough, I called it the prison contract. And yes, ironically, because now a month later, the same senator, that's going to be Senator Ha, who came out in defense of CV Max, as well as mainly Kanavi, the former Griffin player himself, for wrongdoings in that, has now come out with a further statement about details of that contract he had apparently signed. So I hope you guys all enjoy. If you guys have no idea about the Griffin situation, it's been a terrible run for the Korean org, and certainly a lot of changes have happened so far in the past 2 weeks or so. Their former coach, CV Max, has been suspended indefinitely. Their former director, Cho, he's been suspended indefinitely. The organization itself has been sued, or is seemingly being fined, I should say, for $80,000 while still being under investigation by Riot Korea. And then after that, we've had a couple Korean senators out there now come out and say that Riot Korea and Griffin could be in further trouble. It's really a hailstorm. It's a whirlwind out there of a story. But let's break down right now Senator Ha and his translation of what was the contract Kanavi was in, and what he does call was worse than slavery at some points or another with the clauses he seemingly had to agree to. So we'll break them down one by one. Also talk about his mother, who has had some things to say about this, and we're not done with this. This will be an ongoing story, guys. Certainly going to talk about this as it does continue throughout these next few weeks. But let's list off these 4 clauses that apparently Kanavi had to undergo and agree to under Griffin. And, well, they're not very good, as apparently the team could actually sell any player anytime and make somehow any contracts, they call them arbitrary contracts, without player approval, which obviously right away you think, how is that even acceptable to any terms? Again, I do apologize for a lack of translation when it comes to these kind of things. It can be tough to translate the exact wording that was used, but it does continue as well, as they had no clear standards for play evaluation, which meant they could kick anyone at any time for any reason seemingly. That explains CV Max's kick as well. If you guys did not know, they were certainly, I wouldn't say a notable team in the LCK. They were a known team. I would not say successful. CV Max comes along, they win 3 regular splits in a row. They make 3 split finals on top of that. And so in many terms out there, in many eyes, that is a huge success, a huge turnaround for a team like Griffin. And then, by the way, they still let him go after that because apparently they could. They had no evaluation for standards or success out there. So you win back-to-back-to-back splits and then make the playoff finals for each of those as well. And then you also make Worlds, and then they let him go. It was certainly questionable because they let him go a month before they had actually made Worlds, which you thought maybe they kicked him because they hadn't, but then they finally do, and they still kick him. Obviously a very successful coach for the organization. They let him go anyway. So that second clause does make sense. Seemingly Griffin had the right to kick anyone at any point in time for whatever reason, which obviously, again, you know, rides the line of morality. And the clauses continue as apparently another one actually had players who could not speak poorly about Griffin, or they faced charges 2.5 times their salary and all of their winnings throughout that season. Now, this is probably the most egregious in terms of what we can understand in terms of translation. If that is true, that players could not speak poorly of the organization, or furtherly in the next clause, actually disobey any orders, they had to obey them like chained animals, according word for word. And with that, if that is true, that is seemingly another conflict of interest here, because we've had several players actually either stay quiet about the CV Max allegations and the Kanavi allegations, or speak out against CV Max. And so it comes down to a conflict of interest, because obviously if these players are going to be facing gigantic fines if they don't defend the organization, or if they speak poorly about them and maybe agree with CV Max, then what they've said so far is certainly held in a bit of contempt if they were under this clause as well. So it really makes things a lot more confusing in terms of who we can actually believe from the team, because if they actually defended CV Max and went against Griffin, they would be fined a lot of money that they possibly could not afford to even pay. And Senator Ha closes with an absolutely killer line, especially when you consider that Phoenix, Fun Plus Phoenix, took World's Finals. Just get this, guys, all right? Get this. He does go on to state that, yes, Griffin, a legendary creature in Alexander the Great tales, represents strength and might, but as it challenged the gods' authorities, it also represents arrogance. Thus, Phoenix over Griffin as of right now in terms of the battle of the gigantic birds out there. And yeah, that's a weird line to say. Now, very lastly, for all of you guys, Kanavi's very own mother has now spoken out about this as well. Again, take it with a grain of salt when it comes to translations. Pretty much the 2 summarized points I want to bring up is, first of all, she had no idea her son's contract was a length of 5 years because she was not apparently present or signing off on this. If you guys do know, Kanavi is currently 19 years old. I do believe very possibly at the time of signing, he was 18, or the thus, you know, and a lot of cultures out there, a minor, you would think a parent would have to be present to sign those contracts. That could, though, obviously be neglect on the mother's side. I'm not trying to call her out, but be even about this or be a bit fair about this. We don't know the full details as to why she was not present when Kanavi obviously signed the contract, and so a bit of that is a bit of ignorance on their end as well. And then very lastly, when it comes time for her asking what her son's salary would be, according to her, director Cho then told her, "You're obsessed with money." Can you imagine signing your son away to a slavery contract and all of a sudden his director or manager tells you, "Don't worry about a salary, you're obsessed with money"? Oh, I understand why this guy is suspended. So there we have it, guys. A Korean senator has now spoken out. Kanavi's own mother has now spoken out. For anyone curious about updates as well, Still 8, the parent company of Griffin, is looking into this because they do actually want to pursue legally, I believe, lawsuit-wise, CV Max because of his outburst. His speakings have actually caused the org gigantic damages, which they're not wrong, and they certainly have. Obviously, right now as well, we do have the Whistleblower Protection Act, if that's going to protect CV Max. There's a lot going on right now with this story being detailed. I think I can certainly speak in the interest of many people out there and say that it looks very skeptical from the side of Griffin, and a lot of people out there are siding with Kanavi, obviously, and CV Max and his allegations. As more continues to come out, I will keep you all posted. Until next time, I hope you guys all enjoy breaking down esports and gaming news here every single day, all day long. Until next time, take care, be nice to each other. Bye.